Mantic is releasing an alternative to Games Workshop's Warhammer 40k called Firefight. Speedpaints can now be pre-ordered individually, and the Tyranids are finally getting their 9th edition codex. This and more in this week's Hobby News. I'm Angela, you're watching Hobby Night. Now let's get to it. A lot of people out there have been looking for an alternative to Warhammer 40,000 for a plethora of reasons that we're not going to get into today, but Mantic has you covered because they are releasing on April 19th a game called Firefight, the 2nd edition of this game, in fact. And honestly, it's looking pretty cool. It's a skirmish-based miniature war game that is designed to be fast-paced with alternating activations as well as an intuitive movement and measurement system. It also is designed to have some more dynamic decision-making happening in the game with a way for you to present orders and counter what your opponent is doing. It's basically allowing you to be a lot more reactive to what your opponent's doing, which I find really cool. You see a little bit of that in the Games Workshop products, but not that much. So the fact that Mantic is playing with it a bit more really excites me. I also like the idea of the alternating activation. I think that just gives a little bit more ways for people to constantly be engaged with the game, and I do hope it actually is faster like they say it's going to be. Now, if you are interested in a game like this, you are in luck because on the 19th they have a 2-player starter set that is coming out, and it is going to have 71 beautifully detailed miniatures in it that will focus on 2 of the 7 main factions in the game. The 2 factions it's going to be focusing on are those Enforcers and the Marauders. The Enforcers are some superhuman marine alternatives, if you will. Do
they know fear?
I don't know if they know fear, but they do know the value of money because this world is set in a capitalist society rather than a grim dark one. But the Marauders, I know, very original, but the Marauders don't care about that. They just want to fight things. They're green skins, so an orc equivalent, and honestly, they look really fun. There's a lot of really cool models if you actually look at the starter set, and it's going to be a little bit easier to learn because there's only 2 rule books, you guys, only 2. You've got your core rule book and then your army list, which features all 7 of the various factions that you can pick up and play in the game, which has an alternative to Guard called the GCPS, which are some human factions. My favorite, which are the Veermen, which are basically space Skaven. And I love these little space rats. They look so cool. If I actually pick up this game, that's the faction I'm wanting to play. There's also the Forge Fathers, which are basically space dwarves, and kind of have a little bit of a Mechanicus vibe to them, it looks like.
The squats?
Kind of. It's really cool.
Reset the clock!
I know, right? Then there's also the Plague, which is not actually a, tentacly, nurgly themed thing, which is what I originally thought when I saw the name The Plague. It's in fact some mutated biohazard lizard men, and it looks actually very, very cool. They're very fierce looking. And then there's also the Asterians, which seem to be their sort of space elf ancient race equivalent. All of these actually look super rad. It's going to come with a variety of different dice. If you're familiar with Dead Zone, which is also produced by Mantic and is a smaller skirmish game, you'll know that they use a D8 system, and this game is going to be using a similar system. It's also going to have a variety of other dice and basically everything you need to get playing the game. I think this is a great alternative. I'm a huge fan of Mantic's products myself. I've not played any of their war games, but I have picked up some of their board games, and I use their terrain all the time in my D&D games. So they're a company I very much enjoy the products from and have had good experiences with. So honestly, Firefight might be one that I pick up down the line. Let me know what your thoughts are on it down below. I'd love to hear what you think. The Army Painter has announced pre-orders for the Speedpaints as individual bottles. So if you are wanting a way to pick up a few individual colors without having to commit to an entire set, whether it be the starter set or the mega set, which includes all 24 colors, now you can. This is great because honestly, there's a couple of key colors I would really recommend everybody grab, but some of them you could just pass on if you really didn't want to or you weren't really super into this style of paints. If you wanted to get a few specific colors, my recommendations would be Plasmatic Bolt, Holy White, Pallid Bone, and Gravelord Grey. I think all 4 of those are fantastic. I think they're different enough from the Citadel equivalents to be justifiable purchases, even if you have similar colors already. And honestly, those are just my 4 favorites, so they're the ones I recommend. Now, if you're wanting to get these, you won't be able to get your hands on them until March 26th, which is the same time that the Mega Set releases, but you will be able to pick them up for $4.50 USD or your regional equivalent, which is significantly cheaper for the same bottle size that you get from Citadel. And they're dropper bottles rather than those weird pop tops, which no one really likes, so it's a real advantage just both in cost as well as just flexibility and usability. I would highly recommend taking a look at the Speedpaints if you haven't already. They are a really great line of paints, and it's a great way to add variety to your arsenal. It's that time of the video where I interrupt to tell you about my Patreon and to let you know that we just added a Discord server which all tiers get access to. So if you're wanting a way to chat with me, share with me your projects, or just tell me what board games you're playing, definitely make sure to check the link below and check out my Patreon. The Tyranids are finally getting their 9th edition codex. Now, we don't know the official release date or anything like that because we're going to get a trickle of information just like we did with the Eldari before them, but it is nice to see a focus continue to be on the Xeno races for Warhammer 40k. We have a nice, lovely Screaming Hive Tyrant on the cover, and that's really all we've seen so far. We also got to take a look at the new Combat Patrol box that's going to be coming out for the Tyranids as well, and I'm not super familiar with all of those units, but frankly, it looks like it's a pretty good mix of what you would want if you were starting a Nids list. Lots of the little guys, a Hive Tyrant in there, seems like a good thing. Then they revealed a brand new model coming out for the Tyranids that'll be included in the codex, and it is the Parasite of Mortex, which we actually have never seen in plastic before. We have seen reference to this particular unit from 5th edition Warhammer 40k, but it's never actually had an officially licensed model before. It's looking pretty rad. It's got big wings, it's got tentacles, I really like it. He has the Synapse keyword, which is going to make him great for running with some of your smaller units, especially those swarms like your gargoyles. He'll buff them up a little bit, which is great. He's got a massive 16-inch movement, which is just insane. He's gonna fly across the board, so you might want to be a little careful if you are running him with those guys to make sure that he stays with them, so that whatever buffs he can give them actually stay on them. And he's going to be able to inflict mortal wounds with his Parasite Infection, which I believe is on his claws. This ability, in combination with It Itches, can really make the Parasite Infections really awful and annoying to remove, or you'll want to get them off of the opponent's units really fast because it basically removes their objective secured. So if you're facing a Nid player, they throw this on you, hope that it's not on one of your objective secure models that's holding something down for you, because it might be kind of nasty. The last thing that I want to talk about this week is the armoring of the Space Marine that we all got to witness on...
Oh, I love the StarCraft 2 trailer. It's great.
I know, isn't it? Isn't it? Also, they've described this in the Index Astartes like aeons ago. I know it's not actually aeons, but it feels like it.
It's like 20 years ago. I have the book.
I know, it's a really cool book, but we finally got to see it in actual motion and animation, and frankly, I will say, it was very, very rad. The animation was incredibly well done. I thought the attention to detail was really cool. And frankly, the fact that they're actually embracing the more religious and sort of holy aspects of the whole ceremony of the Space Marines and the Imperium is nice to see, because for a really long time, I feel like Games Workshop was trying to shun that, shake it off. And then when the Sisters released, and honestly, I feel like they brought that back, and now the Space Marines are even getting to sort of hang on to those original traditions and ceremonies, which is really cool to see. However, it's so weird to me that this was released on YouTube and not the Warhammer Plus app. I don't know why we're not getting that quality of animation on the Warhammer Plus app. And it just continues to make me be very confused about what their goal with the app is, what their goal with YouTube is, and who their audience for those platforms are. I just want clarification for like the data like geek in me really is at this point. It's really just that, because I just don't understand it. But the animation was really cool, and honestly, it was just fun to watch. Go watch it if you haven't already. All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. I'm really excited about Firefight. I'm sure a lot of you guys are too. I know there's several of you in the comments that are constantly telling me, check out Mantic, check out Mantic. Well, don't worry, I might be soon. I have been Angela, you have been watching Hobby Night, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this particular episode. Before I head out, I do want to give a huge thank you to my patrons for allowing content like this to continue to be made. Without your guys' support, we wouldn't be able to do this. If you'd like to join my patrons and support the channel directly, you can find a link down in the description below. In the meantime, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.